Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K YouTube live video. And today I'm going to show you a card really quickly, how I made a card, I should say really quickly, with the All for Baby stamp set bundle. So this is one of the newer ones from the current annual catalog, the one that just started back here in May. And it's a fun little set. Like I said, it's really cute. I love the little baby images in it. I love that it's a distinctive set, so you get a little bit of kind of the layered look stamping without having to do really anything other than just stamp. So, hey Rosie, thanks for joining today. Excuse me, goodness. All right, so this is the card that, well, we're actually going to make another version of this card. This one I thought was sort of a girl version, and then I'm going to show you in the video a little bit of a boy version. Although I think either could go either way. I mean, this one's got little flowers and stuff on it, so it's pretty girly. But the other one definitely could be used for either a girl or a boy. I did a little more kind of neutral colors with greens and yellows and blues in that one. So, all right, so this is the card that we're going to be making. And then this is the stamp set bundle. So we've got the All for Baby stamp set, which is definitely a really cute one. I love the little images in it, some fun little sentiments. I love that it's got a clothesline and these cute little clothespins and things that you can use to make it look like you're hanging up the little image or the little clothes on the clothesline. So again, it's just a really cute little stamp set. And then of course, you know me, because I love all things with dies. I love that it's got the coordinating baby clothes dies that go with it. Again, it cuts out the stamped images, the little bib, the onesies, the bear, what else does it cut out? The pockets, and then there's a little rainbow and bow and the little stars that it cuts out. So, and the heart too. So, and then there's some little accessory pieces. There's another set of clothespins, a different bib, and then a couple little hangers as well. So definitely a cute set. Hey, Karen and Melanie, thanks for joining today. I'm sorry, I've got kind of got a little tickle in my throat all of a sudden. Of course, now that I start talking, maybe that means I'm talking too much. So, all right, so this is the die set. This is the All for Baby stamp set. I'm going to set that aside. A couple other things that I used on this. I used the Tasteful Labels dies, and I used in particular this little die here, the one that's the banner, the stitched banner for the sentiment on here. And hopefully, I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's a little scalloped stitched edge underneath here. I'll show you how I made that in a second. But I actually used this scalloped edge die from the Penned Flowers dies. Hopefully, so I knew I was going to forget it, so I wrote it down. So this is the Penned Flowers dies. There is a different stamp set that coordinates with this one, but this one in particular, I just used the little scalloped edge die. And then one last thing that I did use was the checks and dots embossing folders. Obviously, I did not use, oops, that one's upside down. Did not use the checks one. That's a plaid. But I did use the dots. So I used that for the little panel here underneath. Hopefully you can see it on the video, the little panel underneath the onesies. So, hello from Virginia. Thanks for hopping in, and from North Carolina as well. So. And you struggle with baby cards. I don't make a lot of them because I'm kind of at that age where most of my friends and family have already had babies, so we're not at the age where we're grandparents yet. I guess that's good because I'm not quite that old. But but yeah, I mean, I don't generally have a lot of need for baby cards at this point in my life. But I know it will happen. It seems like it kind of goes through cycles, and when you need wedding cards and all that sort of thing. So, thanks, Kay. I appreciate that. One thing I did want to tell you about before we got started, Stampin' Up! Has their Connect, Craft, and Collect promotion going on through the 14th of June, so it's almost over. But any orders that you place of $250 or greater, you get an additional $25 in host cash to spend, or Stampin' Rewards to spend. And if you host a party and gather up orders and have orders that total $250 or greater, the host of the party is also going to get $25 additional Stampin' Rewards. So that's basically double what you normally get at a $250 order. So that's definitely a good deal. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. I would be happy to chat with you more about it. So let's get going before I forget what I have. Always asking for baby cards for grandbabies and great grandbabies. Yeah, like I said, we're not quite at that point in our lives yet. I know it's coming, but we're not quite there yet. So, all right. So the designer paper I used, of course, I didn't write down the name of that. It's the Pansy Petals, I think is the name of it. The designer series paper from the Pansy Patch suite of products. So I used that. Actually, I used fresh freesia on this card, and we're going to be using the soft succulent version of the gingham on this card. So I love this paper. I love gingham in general, and I think gingham makes perfect baby cards. So but I do, the measurements and everything for this are going to be posted out on my blog tomorrow, and I will share a link to the blog post once I get the video, or once the blog post goes live. So I'll share it in the description part of the video, so you can go take a look there whenever you're ready tomorrow after about 8 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. But this is actually cut to 3 5/8 by 4 7/8, and I'm adhering it to a piece of basic white cardstock that I have cut to 3 3/4 by 5. So, all right, super simple with Stampin' Seal for the background. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining today. Next up, I'll show you how I did this. I kind of cheat when I use the little scalloped edges because I oftentimes end up with them not being very straight. I have an issue. Like if I try to measure it out and make it be all perfect, they end up with one like that and one like that. And I just, I can't ever get them laid out straight if I'm just cutting a piece of paper and I want to cut one side, each side of it with a scalloped edge. I never end up with it straight. So my little cheat for you is make it thinner little panels and just cut the edge, and then make a panel that's the same color and stick it to the back. And really nobody can tell the difference. And then they don't know whether you've cut it straight or not, because like I said, I'm the queen of crookedy, crazy cutting. When I use these scalloped or any of the edge dies, I seem to have trouble. I can't cut straight with them. So that works for me. These started out about 1 inch wide, and I just, no special placement on it. I just put the scallop die on it and ran it through the die cutting machine and did the same thing on this one. This is a piece of basic white cardstock that is 1 3/8 by 4 7/8, and I went ahead and pre-embossed that with the little polka dot folder from the checks and dots embossing folders. So I'm going to use a little Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to run it here along one of the 2 die cut panels, and I'm just going to line it up here so that I want the stitched edging to show, because I think that's kind of cute. So I'm just going to line it up here so that the stitched edging is barely peeking out around the polka dot edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So just going to take this, run a little Stampin' Seal along it, and then I'm going to turn my panel around and adhere them together, hopefully straight, like this. So again, that's my little trick for when I'm cutting these and I want them to be straight. Is just layer a piece in the middle and nobody knows the difference. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of Stampin' Seal to adhere this to the card front. And hopefully I've cut everything to the right size so it won't look all sorts of crazy, which sometimes I get a little crazier than others on it. All right, I think we're pretty close on there. All right, next up, I did a little stamping and die cutting ahead of time because, again, this is basically, it's the same thing over and over again. But we are going to stamp one here on screen. This one is Daffodil Delight, and this one is actually Pool Party, which I know it may or may not, it looks a little more green probably on camera than it actually is. It is Pool Party that I used on that one. And then I'm going to use Soft Succulent for the final one. And I know some of you were on for my video on Tuesday, my Facebook Live, and actually I showed you there my little trick with the distinctive stamps. This is a brand new ink pad, the Soft Succulent one is, so it's very, very inky for me, and it's hopefully you can see it on here, but it's getting like little bubbles on it that I don't like and are not going to stamp very nicely. So I take a little sponge dauber, dab just a tiny bit of the ink on it, and then go over the whole thing, and that knocks out all the little weird bubbles and things that you see in it. And then you're going to get a nice image with it. So that is my little tip when you're using the distinctive stamps. If you have trouble with it, looking bubbly or filling in the little dots when you don't want them filled in, grab a sponge dauber and go over the top of it, and that works really, really slick. So we're going to stamp this on some basic white cardstock. And there we go. We should have a good image at that point. I'm going to set this aside. Actually, yeah, I'm going to set this aside for a sec. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to stamp the sentiment first before I do too much. I picked Evening Evergreen for the sentiment on this one, again, just because on this one I had used Gorgeous Grape, so it's a little bit darker than the Fresh Freesia. So I wanted something that was a little bit darker on this one as well, and we are going to use Evening Evergreen because I love the color and because I think it coordinates really nicely with the new in colors. So I'm going to stamp that down here again on the basic white cardstock and set that aside as well. Next up, I'm going to pull out a couple of the dies and hopefully get this die cut reasonably straight. So this is actually from the baby clothes dies. There's one that coordinates with the little, I don't know, what are those onesies when they got the legs on them? There's romper, I don't know what they call them. I'm not up on my baby's terms. My kids are older. So then I'm also going to use this banner die from the Tasteful Labels dies, and I'm going to run it through the die cutting machine over here to my right. So I'm going to be off screen for 1 second, but I'll still be here. So I will be right back. And I'm actually going to probably run these through separately just because if I don't, I tend to have something slide that I didn't want to slide, and then things end up crazy and I have to restamp. So, all right, so I'm die cutting the little romper onesie outfit thing first. I have my die cutting machine set up on the table next to me so that hopefully I won't wiggle the table that I'm stamping on too terribly much. So we've got that one done. And then I'm just going to cut out my sentiment. Well, if I can get the die to stay on the magnetic sheet, that is. So, all right, so I'm going to cut out the sentiment here, and that's going to take me a second to line up just because I'm going to try to make sure that it's straight and even. And sometimes straight and even is a little challenging. Hopefully I got it. If it looks terrible, we can always redo it, but I think I got it pretty closely to the middle there. And let me put the dies away, set that aside, and we'll get busy adhering things together. All right, so back to our card front. I don't know that I have any like special way that I was going to put the colors together, but I'm just going to go ahead and start. This is the pool party little romper that I've got here. And you can either use glue dots or Stampin' Seal. Either one will work just fine on this. And I'm going to use some, I used Stampin' Seal today. I think I used glue dots actually on that one. And I'm just going to stick it on here. It's going to be a little bit higher up. And then I'm going to take glue dots to stick the next one on. This one is the Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to use glue dots just because I feel like glue dots are a little bit more raised. They're not a Stampin' Dimensional by any stretch, but they do raise the image up just a little bit, I feel like. So I wanted it to look like it was a little more of a layer. So usually when I want to do that, I'll add in some glue dots. So then I'm going to take the Daffodil Delight little romper. Is that what we've decided we call it? I don't know. The little baby clothes. We're going to stick that on here. And then the final one I've got here is my Soft Succulent little stamped image, and I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals actually on that one. And these are my half Stampin' Dimensionals. If you haven't watched one of my videos before, I chop my Stampin' Dimensionals in half because I like them better that way. They fit better on many things, and they stick just as well as a whole dimensional does. So I figure if I can get away with a half one, then I'm going to use it. So, all right, let me get rid of the little paper backings. And oh, you know what? I totally forgot to stamp on here. I wonder if I could still do it. I forgot the pocket. And I knew I was going to forget it. We're going to give it a whirl. I don't know how it's going to go. I may end up having to restamp it completely. So the little pocket image, I'm actually, since I don't want two of them on here, I only want one. I'm just going to ink up one side of it. And then we're going to hold our breath and hope that I do this without sticking it to everything. Let me put something plastic under it because I'm afraid if I stick it to the paper, it's really going to stick. And I'm going to take this and try. I think we might have gotten it. Yay! I think it worked. Now if I get it peeled off the stamp case, we'll be doing well. So, all right, there we go. Look at that. Even saved it and remembered to put the pocket on it after all. All right, so we're going to adhere that to the card front with our Stampin' Dimensionals. Then I've got my sentiment that's left here, and I'm also going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere that. And I just want to be careful not to put Stampin' Dimensionals way over to the one edge of it, just because it's probably going to overlap on the little outfit here at some point, and I don't want it to have a weird lump in it with a Stampin' Dimensional stuck underneath one part that's stuck on top of another Stampin' Dimensional. So, so I'm just going to make sure that the Stampin' Dimensionals are scooted over to the other side of it. And then we're just going to adhere this over on top of the little outfit over here and hopefully get it straight. That's the one nice thing about the ginghams, the plaids, anything that's got a straight line on it. It's a little easier to line up without having to work too hard at it. All right, next up we have got a Soft Succulent card base, and I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere the little card front that we've put together onto the card base. A couple things while I'm doing that. Stampin' Up! Does have their January to June 2021 mini catalog retiring sale going on right now. Some of the items are up to 50% off. So if there are things that you're wanting that are going away, particularly if they're on sale, you'll want to get out and get those ordered sooner rather than later, because it's only while supplies last through the end of June. So go out, take a peek in my online store, and definitely get ordering anything that you haven't ordered yet from the mini catalog. All right, so we're going to adhere this together with Stampin' Dimensionals, and that's basically the card front. So super simple. Since this one I wanted to be a little more gender neutral, I didn't want to go with anything blingy on it, because I thought, I don't know, the bling reminds me too much of girly stuff, so I wanted this one to be able to be either a boy or a girl. All right, next up, the inside of the card, I've got basic white cardstock again, and it's cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and then we've got Evening Evergreen ink that I'm going to stamp the inside sentiment in. And again, the sentiment is from the All for Baby stamp set. And I'm going to try to line this up and hopefully get it fairly straight. It's a little easier if the paper is straight when I'm actually looking at it, for me to be able to stamp it straight too. So, oh, thanks, Karen. And I appreciate that, Rosie. Look at you. I got my own cheering squad out there. So, and I love that. We're going to go back to some soft succulent ink, and we're going to ink the little romper image again, which of course I just stuck the edge of my block right into the ink pad, but that's okay. So hopefully I won't end up with that all over. And then I'm going to take my sponge dauber again and go do my little daubering trick over the top of the image, so that hopefully I get all the little bubbles out from my overly inky ink pad. And then we're going to stamp that right underneath the sentiment. And again, hopefully get it on there fairly straight. And there we go. So that is the inside of the card. I'm going to use a little bit of Stampin' Seal to adhere it to the card base. I don't know if I told you, the card base is cut to 4 1/4 by 11. It's scored at 5 1/2. But this card front will also work with your standard book fold card, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. And scored at 4 1/4. So whatever your favorite version of the card base is, you can use it for that. You can use it either way. So works well on either type of card. So, all right, just using a little Stampin' Seal to adhere this together. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and give it a good crease. And there we go. So that is it. 2 really quick and simple baby cards. Like I said, one's a little more girly, one's a little more boy or gender neutral, either way. Hopefully you like it, and you definitely need to consider getting the stamp set if you have any need for baby cards, because it's really, really, really cute. So thanks so much for joining me today. Again, I will be posting the link to the blog post with all the details about these cards in the description of the video tomorrow, which is Saturday around 8 o'clock Eastern time. So take a peek out there if you want to know more. Let me know if you have any questions on anything. I'm always happy to answer and happy to help. And I will plan to be live on my Facebook channel around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Tuesday, and back here on YouTube live again around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Friday. So have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the rest of your, rest of your week. It's almost over. And we will see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.